Welcome back to your custom deep dive. We've got quite a stack of material here. Blueprints, really, for some core body systems.
Yeah, we're looking at the endocrine, the urinary, and the reproductive systems today. Crucial stuff.
Absolutely. Communication, filtering, building. It's the body's essential infrastructure.
Right. And individually, they're complex enough,
Mm.
but our goal really is to see how they talk to each other.
Connect the dots.
Exactly. Using those clinical examples you share, we want to understand that crosstalk, how the body keeps its balance.
I like that. Not just memorizing parts, but understanding the network. So the plan is start with the messengers, the hormones,
The endocrine system,
then move to the filters, the kidneys, and fluid balance.
urinary system, yep.
And finish up with the builders, the reproductive organs, and how they're regulated.
Sounds like a plan. Let's jump in.
Okay, master regulators first. Endocrine system.
So the endocrine system, the body's, let's say, postal service, sends chemical messages, hormones, through the bloodstream.
Slower than the nervous system's instant messages, right?
Much slower, yeah. More like sending a detailed letter. Steady, long-term communication.
And the main post office, the headquarters, is often said to be the pituitary gland, the master gland.
That's the common term, yes. But it's crucial to know it's not just one thing. It's really functionally split.
Ah, okay. The notes really emphasize that split structure.
They did. Because the posterior pituitary isn't really making hormones. It's more like a storage depot.
Storage? For what?
For hormones made higher up in a hypothalamus, things like ADH, antidiuretic hormone.
Controls water balance.
Right. And oxytocin. The posterior pituitary just holds them and releases them when told.
Okay, so it's a holding tank, but the anterior pituitary, that's different.
Totally different. That part is a hormone factory. It actually synthesizes and releases its own stuff.
Like prolactin for milk production.
Exactly. Prolactin and also growth hormone, GH. It's amazing how much regulation comes from that tiny little structure.
Speaking of growth hormone, the sources brought up gigantism versus acromegaly. That difference is all about timing, isn't it?
Absolutely critical difference. Gigantism happens if you have too much GH before your growth plates fuse. You just keep getting taller.
Before they close up in adolescence.
Right. But acromegaly, that's excess GH after the plates have fused, usually in adulthood.
So you don't get taller, but...
Your bones thicken, hands, feet, face get larger, coarser. It really shows how the timing of a hormone signal changes everything.
Fascinating. Okay, let's shift to metabolism and stress. That brings in the thyroid and adrenal glands.
Thyroid first in the neck. It makes thyroxine, T4, and triiodothyronine, T3.
And their main job is setting the metabolic rate, how fast the body burns energy.
Pretty much, yeah. They control the speed. And you see it clinically.
Like if someone feels cold all the time, gains weight easily, maybe has that swelling in the neck, a goiter.
That strongly points to low thyroxine levels.
Fantastic.
Hypothyroidism. The body's engine is running too slow.
Okay. And then perched on top of the kidneys, we have the adrenal glands. Two parts here too, right? Medulla and cortex.
Correct. Let's start with the inner part, the adrenal medulla. That's your instant responder.
Fight or flight.
Exactly. Epinephrine and norepinephrine. Pure adrenaline rush.
Like that example in the notes, the tricycle driver in traffic, sweating, heart pounding.
That's it. A massive surge of epinephrine. The body just hits the panic button, the survival switch. It happens in milliseconds.
Incredible. But then there's the outer layer, the adrenal cortex. That handles longer-term stuff?
Yeah, the long game. Hormones like cortisol and aldosterone.
Why cortisol? What's the point of a long-term stress hormone?
Well, cortisol is vital for managing chronic stress, controlling inflammation, mobilizing energy. It's necessary.
But too much is bad news.
Very bad news.
Yeah.
Excess cortisol leads to Cushing's syndrome. This could be from a tumor or pretty commonly from taking corticosteroid drugs for a long time.
And that causes those really specific symptoms, high blood sugar, the moon face, fat deposits on the back, the thin arms and legs.
Yes. It's a strange picture. The excess cortisol breaks down muscle protein for energy, hence the thin limbs, while promoting fat storage centrally. Plus the high blood sugar. It's a systemic breakdown from too much hormone.
Wow. Okay, last big endocrine topic, blood sugar. Managed by the pancreas.
Right, specifically by cell clusters in the pancreas called the islets of Langerhans.
And it's a tug of war, isn't it? Two hormones pulling opposite ways.
It is. You've got insulin, which lowers blood glucose, tells cells to take it up.
Okay.
And then its opposite, glucagon. Glucagon raises blood glucose. It's hyperglycemic.
When would you need that? Glucagon.
Mostly when you haven't eaten for a while. When blood sugar drops, glucagon tells the liver to break down its stored glycogen and release glucose into the blood.
So glucagon saves the day when you're fasting, but the notes mentioned ketosis. That sounded really serious. It happens if a diabetic stops insulin.
Extremely serious, yes.
Yeah.
Without insulin, glucose can't get into the cells. So the body thinks it's starving, even if there's tons of glucose in the blood.
So it starts burning fat instead.
Exactly. Burns fat like crazy. But the breakdown products are acidic ketone bodies.
Acidic. That's bad.
Very bad. The blood gets acidic. This leads to those 3 Ps. Polyuria, excessive urination, to try and flush things out.
Polydipsia, extreme thirst because you're losing so much fluid.
And polyphagia, excessive hunger, because the cells still aren't getting glucose energy. Can quickly become life-threatening diabetic ketoacidosis.
A critical balance. Okay, just a quick mention. The pineal gland secretes melatonin.
Yep. Tiny gland, but crucial for regulating sleep-wake cycles, our circadian rhythm. Think shift work, jet lag, insomnia. Melatonin's involved.
Got it. So the big endocrine takeaway seems to be balance. Everything's interconnected, feedback loops everywhere, and too much or too little of anything has big consequences.
That sums it up nicely. Life hinges on that delicate hormonal balance.
Which is a perfect lead-in to our next system, the filters. Because those adrenal glands we just talked about sit right on top of the kidneys.
They do indeed. And the kidneys are filtration powerhouses, tucked away safely too.
In that retroperitoneal spot, right, behind the main abdominal lining.
Exactly. Retroperitoneal, it protects them, but also explains why kidney pain, like from stones, often feels like it's in your flank or back.
Makes sense. And the kidney's actual workhorse, the main functional unit, is the nephron.
That's the one. Millions of them in each kidney. The outer region where many start is the cortex.
And understanding how the nephron works, that's key to understanding your information. The notes listed 3 steps. Glomerular filtration, tubular reabsorption, tubular secretion, but specifically not protein synthesis.
Right. Kidneys filter and purify. They don't really bleed proteins. So first step, glomerular filtration, squeezing fluid out of the blood.
Then tubular reabsorption, taking back the good stuff.
Reclaiming valuables. And finally, tubular secretion, actively dumping extra waste from the blood into the urine.
Let's look at that first step, filtration. Happens in the glomerulus. That little ball of capillaries?
That's right. A tangled knot of capillaries. And it's got this weird plumbing.
Yeah, the notes mentioned an arteriole goes in and another arteriole comes out. Usually it's arterial capillary venule.
Exactly. And the incoming pipe, the afferent arteriole, is wider than the outgoing one, the efferent arteriole.
Why design it like that? To crank up the pressure?
Precisely. It's like putting your thumb over the end of a hose. Creates high hydrostatic pressure inside the glomerulus.
And that pressure forces fluid out.
That's the driving force of filtration. It pushes water and small solutes out of the blood and into the nephron tubule. It lets the kidneys filter something like 180 liters of fluid a day.
Incredible volume. Okay, so fluid's pushed out, then comes reabsorption, taking back what the body needs.
And that's mainly the job of the next part, the proximal convoluted tubule, or PCT.
What does it grab back?
Almost everything valuable. Glucose, amino acids, essential ions like sodium, potassium, chloride. It's super efficient.
Which is why you normally shouldn't find glucose in urine.
Exactly. If you find glucose, it usually means either the blood glucose level is sky high, like in diabetes, overwhelming the PCT's ability to reabsorb it, or the tubule itself is damaged. Same idea for protein, shouldn't normally get through the filter or should be reabsorbed.
Okay, so after filtering, reabsorbing, and secreting, we have urine. The yellow color comes from urochrome.
Urochrome, yeah. A pigment from hemoglobin breakdown.
The urine then travels down the ureters.
Tubes connecting kidneys to the bladder.
To the urinary bladder, which is mostly made of the detrusor muscle.
Smooth muscle that makes up the bladder wall, allows it to stretch and contract.
And the act of emptying the bladder is called micturition.
Correct. Now let's link back to the endocrine system, because hormones heavily control kidney function. We mentioned ADH already.
From the posterior pituitary. Tells kidneys to keep water.
Right. So if ADH levels are low, maybe suppressed by alcohol.
Ah, yes. Frequent urination, dilute urine. Because the kidneys aren't being told to hold water back, leads to dehydration.
Exactly. But the kidney itself makes crucial hormones too, especially for blood pressure.
Right, renin.
Yes. When blood pressure drops, specialized cells in the kidney release renin.
And renin starts a chain reaction.
Kicks off the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system, or RAAS. The end result is the release of aldosterone.
From the adrenal cortex. We talked about that one.
See the connection? Aldosterone tells the kidneys to reabsorb more sodium.
And water follows salt.
Always. So more salt retained means more water retained, which increases blood volume and raises blood pressure. It's the kidney's own pressure control system involving the adrenal gland.
Wow. So the kidney manages water with ADH from the pituitary and salt with aldosterone triggered by its own renin, plus it does something with blood cells.
It does. Kidneys produce erythropoietin, or EPO,
EPO.
stimulates red blood cell production in the bone marrow.
So if your kidneys fail,
You often get chronic anemia because you're not making enough EPO. It connects kidney health directly to your blood count.
fascinating links. Okay, quick clinical hits from the notes. Kidney stones renal calculi. Causes flank pain, likely from very concentrated urine.
Yes, minerals crystallize out when urine is too concentrated or the pH is off,
And pyuria. Painful, cloudy urine.
with pus cells in it.
Hmm.
Indicates a significant urinary tract infection.
For checking kidney function, the key blood test mentioned is creatinine.
Creatinine is a great marker. It's a waste product from muscle activity. Healthy kidneys filter it out consistently.
So if blood creatinine levels are high.
It means the kidneys aren't filtering waste properly, a strong indicator of renal impairment.
And one last thing, pH balance. If the blood gets too acidic.
Acidosis. The kidneys jump in to help compensate
How?
by actively excreting hydrogen ions, the acid part, into the urine and reabsorbing bicarbonate, the base part, back into the blood. They act as powerful, long-term pH buffers.
Okay, third system, the builders. Let's start with the male system. Primary organs are the testes.
Right, housed in the scrotum.
Yeah.
And inside the testes, you have the seminiferous tubules.
That's where sperm are actually made. Spermatogenesis.
That's the site. Then the sperm move to the epididymis to mature and be stored.
And the hormone driving all this? Testosterone. Where's that made?
That comes from the interstitial cells, also called Leydig cells, which are located between the seminiferous tubules.
Okay. Different cells for sperm production and hormone production. And the scrotum's role, keeping things cool.
Essential. Sperm develop best slightly cooler than core body temperature. The scrotum acts like a thermostat, adjusting position to maintain that ideal temperature.
Clever design. Procedure note. A vasectomy cuts the ductus deferens.
Correct. That's the tube that carries sperm from the epididymis up towards the urethra. Cutting it prevents sperm from reaching the ejaculate.
Makes sense. We also need to mention the accessory glands, the prostate gland. It surrounds the urethra.
It does, right at the base of the bladder, and its secretions are a major part of semen.
What do those secretions do?
They're alkaline, which helps neutralize the acidic environment of the vagina, improving sperm motility and survival chances.
Protection for the sperm. And the clinical issue here is often benign prostatic hypertrophy, BPH.
Very common in older men, yes.
Ah.
The prostate enlarges non-cancerously.
And because it surrounds the urethra.
It squeezes it, causes difficulty starting urination, weak stream, feeling like the bladder isn't empty, basically urinary obstruction problems.
Okay, switching to the female system. Primary organs are the ovaries.
And like the testes, they have a dual role, producing eggs and producing hormones.
The main hormones being estrogen and progesterone. Estrogen drives female secondary sex characteristics, right?
Primarily, yes. Breast development, fat distribution patterns, initiating the menstrual cycle.
Structurally, the connection between the ovary and the uterine tube isn't direct, is it?
No, it's quite interesting. The uterine tubes, or fallopian tubes, aren't attached to the ovaries.
So how does the egg get in?
The end of the tube has these finger-like projections called fimbryo. When ovulation occurs, they sort of sweep over the ovary surface to catch the released egg and guide it into the tube.
Wow, a catcher's mitt system.
Pretty much. Then the egg travels down the tube towards the uterus.
And if fertilization happens, the destination is the inner lining of the uterus, the endometrium.
That's the site of implantation. Which brings us back to hormones and cycles. What happens right after ovulation?
The follicle that released the egg changes.
It does. It collapses and transforms into the corpus luteum.
Corpus luteum, yellow body.
Literally. And this temporary structure becomes a mini endocrine gland itself.
What does it make?
Loads of progesterone and some estrogen, too. Progesterone's main job is to prepare and maintain that endometrium, making it thick, vascular, and ready for a potential pregnancy.
So it supports early pregnancy.
Absolutely. If pregnancy occurs, it keeps going for a while. If not, it degrades, progesterone levels drop, and menstruation starts.
The basic unit of egg development, by the way, the source calls it the Graafian follicle.
That's the mature follicle, ready to ovulate. Okay, let's hit some clinical connections here. This system is very sensitive.
Like stress affecting the menstrual cycle, amenorrhea.
Definitely. Significant stress can disrupt the signals from the hypothalamus to the pituitary, which then messes up the FSH and LH release needed for the ovarian cycle. Low estrogen follows, and cycles can stop.
Your notes also had a term for ovulation pain, Mittelschmerz.
Yes, German for middle pain. Some women feel a twinge or ache on one side around the time of ovulation,
Do we know why?
likely due to the follicle stretching the ovarian surface before rupture, or maybe the small amount of fluid or blood released irritating the pelvic lining. It's a physical event.
And hormonal intervention, emergency contraception. How does that typically work?
The primary mechanism is usually delaying or inhibiting ovulation itself. It likely works by suppressing that crucial LA surge from the pituitary.
No LH surge, no egg release.
Pretty much. Stops ovulation before it happens or delays it significantly.
Got it. And naturally declining function leads to menopause, with symptoms like hot flashes and irregular cycles.
Correct. Ovaries gradually produce less estrogen and progesterone.
And one last clinical point. Blocked tubes causing infertility, often from infection. That's pelvic inflammatory disease, or PID.
Yes, infections ascending from the lower reproductive tract can scar and block the uterine tubes, preventing sperm from reaching the egg or a fertilized egg from reaching the uterus, a major cause of infertility. Hashtag tag synthesis and final takeaways.
Okay, that was a whirlwind tour through the messengers, the filters, and the builders. Let's try to pull it all together now, connect those dots.
Yeah, the big picture.
What really stands out to me is just how incredibly sensitive the body is to balance, especially fluid balance and hormone levels. One little thing seems to affect everything else.
The interdependence is absolutely the key theme. Think about fluid and pressure regulation again. It's not just one system.
Right. We saw the pituitary involved.
Releasing ADH to tell the kidneys, keep water, direct water retention.
But then the kidney itself detects low pressure.
And kicks off the renin system, which ultimately tells the adrenal cortex to release aldosterone.
And aldosterone tells the kidneys, keep salt.
Exactly. And water follows salt.
Uh-huh.
So you need both signals working together, ADH for water, aldosterone for salt, to effectively raise blood volume and pressure. It's a coordinated effort between the pituitary, the adrenals, and the kidneys.
A three-way conference call just to manage fluids.
Basically. And if one part isn't working right, the whole system struggles.
We also saw how stress managed by the adrenals via cortisol can directly impact the reproductive system.
A clear example of messengers affecting the builders.
How does that connection work again?
High levels of chronic stress hormones, particularly cortisol, can send negative feedback signals all the way up to the hypothalamus.
The command center above the pituitary.
Right. That can dampen the signals the hypothalamus sends to the pituitary, which in turn reduces the release of FSH and LH needed for the regular ovarian cycle.
So psychological stress translates directly into hormonal disruption that can stop periods.
It's a perfect illustration. You absolutely cannot look at these systems in isolation. They're constantly influencing each other.
Checking each other's work, managing crises, and daily maintenance all at once.
Often using seemingly opposite poles to achieve that central goal. Homeostasis. Keeping the internal environment stable.
Okay, that leads us perfectly into our final provocative thought for you, building on everything we just discussed.
We've established how tightly linked the kidney, pituitary, and adrenal glands are in managing pressure, fluids, stress.
So consider this scenario drawn from the sources. A patient already has chronic hypertension, high blood pressure. Their pressure regulation system is already stressed.
Okay.
Now, what happens if they develop kidney impairment? We'd see that in rising creatinine levels, right?
Right. Kidneys aren't filtering waste efficiently.
How might that failing kidney itself then further complicate their already difficult blood pressure control? Think about the hormones the kidney releases.
Interesting twist. Okay, so the kidney makes renin, which raises blood pressure via aldosterone, and it makes erythropoietin for red blood cells. So if the kidney is impaired, it might paradoxically release too much renin because it's sensing poor blood flow, even if systemic pressure is high. That would make the hypertension even worse.
A vicious cycle.
And at the same time, the damaged kidney might produce too little erythropoietin, leading to the anemia we talked about.
No.
So the failure in this one filtering organ directly worsens the pressure problem and creates a blood cell problem, showing how system failure inevitably cascades and compounds challenges across the board.
A really powerful example of that interconnectedness. That's it for this deep dive into the body's essential infrastructure: communication, filtration, perpetuation. We hope this synthesis gave you the clarity and insight you were looking for.
Keep digging into those connections. Always ask how and why.
Until next time, stay curious and keep learning.